appreciate being able to be here today with you and share some of my lived perspectives related to clinical trials and clinical research. My perspectives are, I don't have a medical background, but my perspectives are mostly as a user stakeholder, observational, based on experience and School of Hard Knocks. So without further ado, so anyways, I'm a cancer survivor. I was diagnosed about 12 years ago with an incurable, very aggressive form of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And I'm very grateful to be standing here in front of you today, based on some wonderful therapies and challenging therapies that I did go through. I consider myself one of the fortunate ones, and really what I mean by that, the unfortunate piece is being that of somebody who's had to deal with a very aggressive cancer over the years, but also fortunate from the point of view of having a good outcome and a sustainable, durable remission that has allowed me to embark on things that I never even considered before I got sick with cancer, including wearing these various hats here of cancer survivor. Also wearing the hat of a patient partner in clinical research, and also having some experience with clinical trials as a participant. So kind of, a 360 look at patient centricity in terms of clinical trials and clinical research as a user. So, so my treatment, when I was diagnosed, I had 90% bone marrow involvement. I was anemic, real heavy B cell symptom burden from my non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. My therapy was an aggressive regimen of chemo, total body irradiation, an autologous stem cell transplant, which back then was reasonably state-of-the-art, and then maintenance therapy going forward. And this really was definitely no walk in the park therapy. And it did, of course, take its toll physically and from a psychosocial impact standpoint as well. But hey, I'm very, very grateful for, as I said, being able to stand before you today and talk. So in terms of results and outcomes, thanks to some very pivotal clinical trials that paved the way, I was able to, as I said, achieve a sustainable long-term remission. And also, as a cancer survivor, really developing an appreciation for, the foundational science and the work that clinical researchers do, trial healthcare teams, but really and especially, the generous contribution of people who have participated in those clinical trials and making them happen, and resulting in very, very successful therapeutics that have really benefited the cancer population. So what are some meaningful person-centric treatment outcomes that cancer patients want? And this is really, based on a lot of reflection and experience. So, number one, a cure, obviously. But, we'll still settle for turning a disease into a chronic type of ailment that can be treated, even though, you can't cure it. We really like to see, more efficacy and more personalized and targeted therapies that meet our individual patient needs. And we like to see improved quality of life from therapies that are coming out of clinical trials. That's fewer harms and side effects. And we like to see clinical trials that are, equitable and ethical, and meet the broad range of demographic in our country, and not just a certain sliver of demographic. So really, within the protocol design stage, ensuring that cultural and ethnicity and age and where you live are really built into into that recognition built into the clinical trial, and also meeting the needs of rare diseases and pediatric cancers and others that are underserved. We need a lot more focus on that, and also treatments that are easy to administer. And that's through, instead of being hooked up to an IV, oral or injections, and making it a lot more convenient for patients to access treatment outside of major urban centers. So easy to administer is really an important thing. And it was also touched on about quality of life as a research outcome. And I really have to agree that, there's been such a high degree of focus on clinical outcomes such as overall survival and progression-free survival in clinical trials, which is great, by the way. But sometimes I get the sense that quality of life is kind of pushed to the side as maybe not even a high priority and a secondary outcome, or maybe an exploratory outcome. Whereas when you have groups of patients that are like second, third, fourth line of therapy, quality of life matters a heck of a lot, as does the additional 6 months maybe, and duration of response. But quality of life is a real important one. So minimal burden, from a financial standpoint, definitely less out-of-pocket expense, ease of not having to travel from somewhere in remote Ontario to downtown Toronto, Princess Margaret, and therapies that are easy to administer really enable that. Definitely would like to see a little bit more in the way of biomarker development, and that enables earlier intervention and accurate and timely diagnosis of our disease. Along with biomarkers, companion tests associated with new therapies that are coming out, all those things would be wonderful. I'd like to see a heck of a lot more of that, and more choices for cancer patients that have high refractory and relapse rates. So, and again, especially when you're starting to get into the later lines of treatments, the third and fourth lines of treatments, those folks, I really think are really chronically underserved in terms of clinical trial therapies. So, let me put on another hat really quickly here. And it's the perspectives of a clinical trial participant. So, the catchphrase there, cancer treatment not for the faint of heart, that's for sure. And yes, another incurable disease entered into the picture. So, in terms of side effects, with my original treatment, I ended up with some significant cardiotoxicity from that evil drug, but very effective drug, doxorubicin, neuropathy, wonky blood counts, and obviously brain fog, as you can tell. And but another disease entered into the picture called cardiac amyloidosis, which is the thickening of the ventricular walls of the heart. It's a slow progressive disease where you have misfolded proteins that are produced in the liver that get deposited in the heart that really disrupt the efficient function of the heart. And so when this happened about 4 years ago, looking at talking with my clinician, there was hey, we don't have any standard therapy for this sort of thing, and here's what you can do. I'm being facetious here, but take a couple of aspirins and call me in the morning. But anyways, clinical trials to the rescue. But eventually, I ended up with on a phase 3 international clinical trial that was investigating a novel mRNA therapy that was used to stabilize the disease. And it involved monthly, testing and imaging, and it did indicate, thankfully, improved cardiac function. And I'd have to say that the treatment experience was really impressive. We had great support from the clinical trial staff. It was a convenient clinical trial, and when I say convenient clinical trial, this one was a hybrid, decentralized clinical trial with a registered nurse visiting about 75% of the total visits were at home, including blood draws, blood draws were interesting. She brought her own centrifuge too, which it's always neat to have in the house. And a very understandable consent in lay terms and background, provided all the right information about the disease. However, was it easy getting into this clinical trial? No. I really had to self-advocate for myself to get into this trial. Believe it or not, my cardiac clinician, I would have thought and assumed that as a matter of course, they would be reviewing all the clinical trials out there that may apply to my particular condition, but that, for whatever reason, that didn't seem to happen. Now, lucky enough, I was able to attend the amyloidosis conference and picked up on some new research that was going on, brought that back, sat down with my clinician, and worked together with them, and then yes, we found that clinical trial, and I was eligible for it, and thankfully, and I'll tell you, if I didn't do that, I wouldn't be here, and I shouldn't have to do that. But unfortunately, you do have to self-advocate and take the bull by the horns sometimes yourself until things are better. There's a good slide. All right, there we go. Okay. So, what are some aspects of clinical trials that participants find meaningful? We need a clear lay understanding of the following. So we have to understand the therapy. We have to understand its therapeutic role and how it works. We need to understand how this clinical trial process works. What are the milestones and timing and harms? We need to understand the quality of life impact. We need to understand research team roles, timing of commitments on both sides of the fence, personal cost impacts, communication, regular clear communication back and forth between the patients and the clinical trials team, and lay consent that really clearly defines or identifies risks and sources of discomfort versus benefits, and really details what our patient rights, our expectations of privacy and security of personal info, including biospecimens. Yeah, so again, upon further reflection, having time to reflect is just a wonderful thing, isn't it? So some more aspects of clinical trials that patients find meaningful. Definitely an equitable design and an accrual approach that really reflects demographic reality. We need the trust in the trial team that they're going to run a safe trial with my health as a priority, and We need this regular and personalized communication, the ability to pick up a phone and talk to somebody on a timely basis. It's part of the trial team if we have any questions or concerns. And we've heard a lot about access to clinical trial navigators, which I think is a great idea. I love that idea about the AI application and trial navigation. I think that's got some great potential. Convenience is a big thing. Decentralized and hybrid opportunities make it a lot easier for patients to participate. Pills and injections versus IV makes it convenient, and wearables. That's also an opportunity to enable broaden reach for clinical trials, both in terms of enticing people into the trial and also remote people who are living remotely. And I'd like to see more effective collaboration of research institutions with regards to things like data sharing and intellectual property and ethics and consent. And this is when you get into multi-centered trials where you have different. Each organization has a slightly different mandate and way of doing these things. So getting all that smoothed out and consistent is an important thing. And shorter approval times for new therapies. The HTA approval process from preclinical all the way through to formulary approval. Yes, we need that to tighten, and we need it to also result in new therapies that are very, very cost effective. Also, last but not least, really the recognition and appreciation for participation is always appreciated as a patient participant. A lot of times I think we just feel that we're, a subject. We're just a point, a data point, and we're not. So, on to the last hat, perspectives of a patient partner. And so thoughts from a patient partner and advisor in clinical research, including patient-centered clinical trials. So I've really had the opportunity, the wonderful opportunity to collaborate with a lot of fine institutions and learn and apply and share, including the Ottawa Hospital Research Institute, Ontario Institute of Cancer Research, Clinical Trials Ontario, and CDA, and a bunch of other organizations. And amongst all of them, it's really, and some of them do it really, really well. But it's also crucial that patient partners get involved in their research programs and share their experience freely. And this is right across the spectrum of, starting at preclinical, moving into clinical and translational and clinical trials. So some factors supporting impactful patient engagement in clinical research. So I just, a couple of real quick bullet points here about, starting accrual attention and retention of patient partners and caregivers can be a real challenge in clinical research. And that needs to be done early, that accrual process. And working closely with patient organizations and trying to find people who are motivated and interested and helpful. At the program level, getting patient partners involved in applications, research application reviews, progress reviews, and scoring is a nice touch of patient centricity. And obviously having them engage in the earliest part of the research cycle. Again, this in the ideation stage right through to the protocol design, and then into the operational phases of research. Patient partners need to be effectively onboarded, not just brought in cold and expecting to fit into the team. So goals and activities and roles and training are all important, things that they require. I'd like to see, additional training resources and toolkits for not only training patients to become patient partners, but also training researchers into aspects of understanding patient engagement better, how to apply patient engagement, including EDI. And then at the design stage of clinical trials, we really need to ensure that this patient participation really starts to bring in that culturally sensitive approach and awareness of social linguistic diversity and being able to tailor our inclusive engagement strategies. Okay. Last slide. Well, second last slide. So, yeah, just to touch on some practices that I've observed that really support patient-centric clinical research and clinical trials. And I'll just go through this really, really quickly. The effective, regular, transparent communication between researchers and patient partners is such an important thing. No tokenism of inclusion of patient partners in a research study. Not a checkbox. We do bring meaningful participation. Ensuring the effectiveness of patient engagements, we need really to understand how we're doing and what sort of an impact we're making. So having some metrics and feedback to enable continual improvement is an important thing. Having defined patient partner plans and EDI plans as part of the research study is I think is really encouraged and important. And continue the development of patient toolkits. Compensation and recognition for patient partners is extremely important, and the recognition of the value that we bring. And also, another important thing is the joint authorship of academic papers and research and presenting the research to help spread the great outcomes that are being achieved. So finally, so patient-centric clinical trials create outcomes, experiences, and quality of care that are important to patients and caregivers. And are we there yet? No. We've heard a lot about today about clinical trials being part of patient care and embedded into patient care, and I think that's such an important thing. I think it's a matter of course when you're visiting your clinician with your disease, me as a cancer patient, I would have some expectation that they would have done some research and offered me this potential option of a clinical trial, as well as evaluating standard of care. Sometimes you get the feeling that hasn't happened. You're shuffled into standard of care. You're on an assembly line moving forward, and you're not really, really seeing the big picture in terms of opportunities for even more life-saving and better quality therapies. So that's a very, very important thing. We need pan-Canadian consistency in terms of how patient-centric clinical trials are delivered. We see differences institution to institution. Some do it well, some do it not so well. So we definitely need that consistency. And finally, again, a little bit of a plug about patient engagement in clinical research. I think it's so important. That's such an enabler for patient-centric and person-centric clinical research. So keep that in the back of your mind. And thank you very much.